So I got done seeing patients today, and I went out with a couple of guys to have a burger and a beer. A guy in his 70s, a guy in his 50s, and me in my 60s. We had a good talk. Sometimes guys do a lot of grunting, maybe not so much verbalizing. But one of the things we talked about was, over the last 3.5 years, where'd we get it wrong? What happened that so dehumanized the interactions we might have had within our families, our neighborhoods, our businesses, churches, schools, clubs, wherever we connected with people? What happened? And it was an ironic conversation because this morning in my meditation, I had spent quite a bit of time reflecting on a paragraph that C.S. Lewis had written 6 years before I was born. In 1948, C.S. Lewis wrote a book called On Living in the Atomic Age. Just to give a little context, in 1948, C.S. Lewis was about 50 years old. 3 years earlier, there had been bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, new bombs, atom bombs, never had been done before. So truly, the last half of the 1940s were the birth of the atomic age. People were concerned. I remember when I was born in 1954, by the time I was 5 years old, I knew that Mom and Dad had some friends who had built in their backyard some cement shelters. They dug it in the ground, they poured cement, they had some cans of green beans and various food items in there, and they were ready because the Cold War, the atomic age, had begun. But here's what C.S. Lewis wrote in 1948. He said this: if we are going to be destroyed by an atomic bomb, let that bomb, when it comes, find us doing sensible and human things, praying, working, teaching, reading, listening to music, bathing the children, playing tennis, chatting to our friends over a pint and a game of darts, but not huddled together like frightened sheep and thinking about bombs. They might break our bodies. Parenthetically, he says, a microbe can do that. But they need not dominate our minds. I think that's sort of convicting. I think over the last 3.5 years, the words that C.S. Lewis wrote in the aftermath of the 2 atom bombs dropping on cities in Japan, they harken back to me. I thought about him a lot today, and 3 guys, 70s, 60s, and 50s, we sat there and talked about it. And my conclusion is, if we see good stuff, we should smile. And if we see ugly stuff, we should wonder. We don't need to be angry. We don't need to frown. We should wonder. Why is the ugly stuff there? So then I was driving home after this burger and a beer with these 2 guys and myself, and I was obligated to follow a tractor for a little bit on a country road, and it appeared that in the driver's seat was Dad, and on his left was his daughter, and on his right was his son. And I smiled. It was good stuff. Then I got home, and I reflected on some of the ugly stuff. I reflected on, why did a 65-year-old, very fit, healthy individual have to suffer a stroke in the last couple of weeks and begin that rehabilitation journey back? Why did another patient of mine have to learn that his rhythm disturbance of his heart couldn't be fixed. So he'd have to live with it. And that would mean living with multiple medications to deal with it. Why would a young man come in and potentially face the bad news that I gave him, that surgery would be a must? When we see ugly stuff, I think we need to wonder. Wonder in a way that maybe we can be gracious, and maybe we can even say a quiet prayer for whoever is suffering the consequences of ugly stuff. But I think it's most important that when we see good stuff, especially in these trying days, I think we need to smile. I think we need to smile and maybe hearken back to one of those lines from Thornton Wilder's play Our Town, when Emily says something like, "Oh, Earth, you're too wonderful for anybody to realize you." Tomorrow, promise you, I'm going to do a better job of smiling. Good night.